Well, they
Dave?
tell you.
Rock and roll.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the August 11th, 2025 special closed session meeting. I'll call the meeting to order at 5:30. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Infante,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Claudia Arona, absent. Councilmember Smith,
Here.
Councilmember Elizabeth Arona,
Here.
Mayor Brown.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Stand up, face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Is there any public communications on our closed session this evening? Either see any here, any on Zoom? See any there? I will then close it to communications, and we will recess to close. Actually, I'll ask the clerk to please read the item.
Item 2A, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1. Name of case, South Coast Property Company 13B LP versus City of Solvang et al., case number 22-CV-00254.
Thank you. We are dismissed. Good evening. We're going to get started again, with or without Mr. Afante. Okay, we have, Madam, we just concluded our closed session, and I leave it to our Madam Attorney to report.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. There is no reportable action coming out of the closed session.
Very good. Then we will adjourn the closed session at 6:14, and we'll reconvene for the main meeting, or regular meeting at 6:30. Thank you. Good evening and welcome everyone to our regular Monday meeting for Solvang City Council. I'm your Mayor, Dave Brown, and I call the meeting to order at 6:31. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Infante.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Claudia Arona, absent. Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Elizabeth Arona.
Here.
Mayor Brown.
Yes, here. All right. Tom Olmsted, would you be so kind as to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I will. Please stand. Mayor Brown, council members, staff, and honored guests, please place our flag and hand over your heart and say with me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. And I understand that school starts this week, so you're right in step there. Appreciate it, Tom. Thank you. I'd also like to ask the audience and staff to please silence your phones if you haven't already, for the consideration of everybody that speaks tonight. Proclamations and accommodations. We have a couple proclamations for tonight? No? Okay. That'll be next time. Okay. And then we have a presentation from the Solvang Senior Center. If you'd like to take the podium and share with us your presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Brown and our city council members, Randy and staff. Thank you for allowing us a few extra minutes to catch up with you on what's been going on at the center. We're thankful and grateful for your support this year, and we're looking forward to one more year of our wonderful relationship of utilizing the Legion Wing. You know, without you accommodating us, we wouldn't be able to continue the services that we have for our Valley seniors, our Solvang seniors, utilizing the Legion Wing for activities and meals. It's been an interesting year, but we've all learned how to work with each other and grow and strengthen the relationship, and we've made some really good friends, especially with your Johnny on your staff. He's fantastic with your custodial staff. Fantastic. He's on my speed dial. But our membership actually, through all of our changes this year, our membership has continued to grow. And I send you the report quarterly, as we should, but I don't always want to just fill you in with facts and figures and spreadsheets. And I think you need to know more of really what goes on at our facility and our center, even in our unique position that we're in. We continue, as I said, to our membership grows, and even though people may not show up as they normally did when we were in our own facility, they're still interested, engaged. They're looking forward to moving into our new building. We've had people approach us for new activities, actually people who would like to be instructors for new activities that are on our books that we're planning. We're going to bring back some of our activities that are a little bit on hiatus right now. But we continue to provide the services and the meals and programs that you have asked us to do and that we've always asked us as part of fulfilling our annual grant from you. But we've also gone beyond that. And I think what's really caused the excitement and the growth in our membership has been since we've had the Risa Guild and people have seen our new building growing. I mean, they've waited and waited, and we've waited and waited. But once the Risa Guild took place and people could go inside the building and see what's going on, we've had endless requests for activities, what's going on, what's next, when are you going to be done, when can we move in, you know how that goes. But it's been really exciting. We've had some changes in our staff and our volunteer force, and our volunteer force is growing. We have people waiting once we move into our new expanded building, and we'll need all that extra help. People that we've recruited and been training to help us with that. We've had some changes in our staff, which are now allowing us to go. We've had more outside excursions planned, and it's been really nice because we're building that relationship with the city parks and rec. So we're going to be going, for instance, down to Santa Barbara to the botanical gardens, using your nice, comfortable van as compared to ours, which is comfortable, but it's more like for, football players on a team crowded in there, not for seniors to enjoy themselves. So we want to keep them captured in one spot so that they'll talk and communicate and make new friends. So we've just been we're happy to have the relationship we do with you. We've all have overcome some challenges. We've learned that we can work together. I'm counting the days when I'm not inside a trailer anymore, but it works. And our folks are really looking forward to their new building. I've given you a postcard so that you can all go online to our beautiful brand new website, which is live, working, fantastic. You can go on and check out all of the activities, the comments that folks have made who are engaged with the senior center. You can see what our future programs are. And when Tom Olmsted comes up here, he'll talk about our new building, and you can actually see live footage of our building. Well, it's time lapse, but of our building at different phases, and it's exciting, and it'll keep you engaged. So watch your mailbox, because you'll all be receiving an invitation to our fundraiser October 5th, Sunday, at the Theater Fest Garden. It's going to be an Oktoberfest themed event, and we hope that you can all make it and help us celebrate. So, like we like to say, the Senior Center is a place for you to gather, grow, and belong, and it's for folks 55 and better. Do you have any questions from me? No?
My only question, what are some of the new activities that you've done?
We have some new, we're expanding our yoga classes. We've now started classes, not classes, they're games, pinochle board games, so forth. When we move into our new building, we have a community member who is a chef who is really would like to help us with some of our nutrition programs, and there's room for two, by the way. But we'll be offering some new nutrition programs. We have, do any of you read the newsletter that comes to the city? Yes, you do. Good. So you see the activities we have. We have a more personal enrichment programs that we've started to help people as they move through different phases of life. One of them, with some of you might have an ick factor about, but you should really try to attend, is called the Death Cafe. And people can ask any question they'd like or find out about death. Because as we say, you're not going to die from finding out about death. This is actually an international movement, and so Solvang is now on the map for offering this course. But it's something for people to get together and discuss how they feel about life and the next steps of life. We've had some really great journaling classes and mindfulness classes, and all things to kind of help calm people, bring people together, and have them converse on a different level than what they thought they would. And then as we have our walking class, and we're hoping in the next month or two to start a walking class for individuals who aren't speed walkers, because that's what our group is right now. We need a walking class for lollygaggers. So that's what we're working on that. And more board games, just bringing people together, and we'll have a new space for more physical activities and other things. that help you?
Thank you, yes.
Thanks. Any more questions? Nope. Thank you. Now, Tom Olmsted will answer anything you have questions about the new building.
Okay.
Good evening, Tom Olmsted, Solvang Senior Center Capital Campaign Committee. I have to report that the building is progressing very well. If you all drive by it, you see the framing is pretty well done, and you drive by the next week and it looks the same. You know, what's going on? Well, a lot. Inside is a beehive of activity. They're putting in all the necessary things for our HVAC, plumbing, gas, and electrical. But the big news today is we need to get a water line across Maple, and they dug that today. We didn't think that was going to happen for a while. So we're pretty well on track, and we meet with our contractor every week and get an update, and it's all looking pretty good. And as Alan said, if you want to go to the Solvang Senior Center website under News, drop down and you can see the building in progress. It's pretty cool. Questions?
Yeah, what's your forecasted completion date?
Forecast completion date is May 19th, 2026. He's writing that down. I saw that. As he should. As he should. That's the track we're on right now.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you.
Okay. We have another presentation this evening for the IPW 2025 Trade Show.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and public. I am Candace, your marketing events coordinator. This past June 14th through the 18th, I had the opportunity to attend IPW. It's an international trade show, and I went as a partner delegate with Shelby Sims, Cynthia Gonzalez from Visit SYV, and Kathy Vreeland from Discover Buellton. IPW serves as the travel industry's premier international marketplace, and it is the largest driver of inbound travel to the United States. So we had 3 intensive days of engaged, numerous pre-scheduled appointments with travel buyers and media representatives from more than 70 countries. This unique forum allowed us to showcase the San Ynez Valley, and specifically me, Solvang, as a premier destination. We shared comprehensive lodging information, press materials, curated itineraries, event information, our destination's amenities and activities, and we provided high-quality photography to support travel buyers and the journalists in promoting our area. We did this through a QR code that linked back to our respective destinations' media kits. So we conducted over 60 meetings on the showroom floor, establishing relationships, making connections, and strengthening our presence with key international and domestic marketplace. So it was a wonderful experience. I was honored to represent Solvang there, and we have had a few things come out of it. So we had a Dubai visit that just recently happened last week, and we have a Japan FAM tour at the end of September. So we already have 2 pretty big things that have come out of that trade show. Any questions?
Mike, I had a quick question.
Yeah.
Was there any particular nationality that was focal? Or
Yeah,
front?
we met with, Mexico, Germany, we met with Denmark. Really, there was just one absent area. Canada was really not present at the meeting. Just with things going on, there was not much of a presence with Canada there. So we didn't have any meetings with them. So,
Thank you.
yeah. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. We're going to now move on to public communications. If you would read that into the record for us, please.
Public communications at this time is public's opportunity to address council on items not on the agenda and on consent, and the time limit is 3 minutes. We will start with public comment first.
I don't have any slips, so who would like to come up and Evelyn, I think this is time that, if you want to say something? Please give us your name and your city of residence.
Hi, Honorable Mayor and council members and public. I, for one, want to say yes on the senior center. We had a collage class last week and it was amazing. Okay, so I'm, for 10 months, I've been a resident of Solvang. I live at 1775 Maple Avenue, and I'm here to address an issue that's, well, I'm just going to read it to you. I respectfully am asking you to please consider putting in one of those flashing yellow pedestrian crosswalks between the vicinity of Solvang Public Library and the Mission San Ynez, as there are bus stops on either side of the street, which is actually technically Highway 246. It can be a hardship to walk back and forth to Alisal crosswalks, especially if carrying groceries, etc. I've spoken with many people regarding having this safety measure implemented, as it's sometimes rather dangerous just to cross the street at that juncture. Please let me know what steps are needed to take to have you consider this not only for the locals, but for the tourist population too, because sometimes, especially with 4th of July, the people at the library watch people walking with their kids across the street, and it's very, very dangerous. So anyways, I just want to give gratitude for whatever advice you can give me where to address this or how to address it, and I appreciate your time on this.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. It's in our letter here. Evelyn, your last name is Chesham? Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other on Zoom or in?
No, I don't have anything on Zoom. I just wanted to point out, since 246 is a state facility, those comments are best directed to Caltrans. We will share your concerns with them, and they will be the ones to update you on any progress.
Thank you. And I'll step out just a little bit of decorum, not decorum, but out of process. Is it possible that maybe we can have a stop there on Maple with the buses, and that might help a little bit too? I don't know.
That's part of an unmet transit needs discussion that has to happen with SBCAG.
Yeah.
It can happen. It won't happen overnight, but it is definitely something that can be changed.
Might be faster than Caltrans, that's all.
I would agree with that.
So, and solve the problem. So, thank you. Any other comments for non-agenda items? Any online? Okay, we'll move on to item 4, City Manager's Report. Mr. Murphy.
Yes, thank you. A reminder, this Saturday, over here in parking lot 5 across the street from City Hall will be the next quarterly cleanup. You must be a resident of Solvang, must be a customer of Waste Management, and provide proof of your residency as well as your customercy, I guess, would be a... but they're taking everything except hazardous waste, but pretty much, yard waste, garbage, old furniture, old appliances, all that stuff is what they're looking to take. So that's happening this coming Saturday, and as I pointed out, they do it on a quarterly basis. The next one will be the third Saturday in November. We had a meeting here last week with Caltrans regarding the Alamo Pintado Bridge. The environmental document is out. There was a request by some of the attendees to extend the comment period for the environmental document. It was originally supposed to end this Friday, the 15th. Caltrans heard that, listened, and extended it another week. So the official close date for those comments now is next Friday, the 22nd, at the end of the business day. The other thing I wanted to point out, you may have noticed the staff reports. We've added a recommended action in most cases. I mean, even on the consent items in case they get pulled, but it's now part of a recommended action above alternatives in most cases. I've noticed that some of the subject lines were getting quite lengthy, and so we're trying to have staff, be a little more concise and provide that information to council. It's kind of a combination of things, different things, but part of it is we're going to a new agenda management system, and so that's going to get a little more convoluted if we didn't make that change. The other, the other thing I wanted to point out, on the advanced calendar, we have eliminated on the bottom part of that the annual reports. That was more of a kind of a staff reminder about the various quarterly reports, about in different things that go on. That information is available to anybody in the public if they request it. That never really changed. It was more, again, of a staff reminder saying this is giving us a kind of a nudge. Hey, don't forget we got to do that with the new agenda management system. We can plug all that information in, so we don't need that reminder. So that's another reason why that's not on there. So other than that, I'm available for questions.
Any questions for our city manager, Mr. Murphy?
Yeah, just a note. I got an email, my personal email, from Waste Management talking about the waste day, and they said parking lot 4. So we know you and I know it's parking lot 4. You've announced it a couple of times as 5, but you got to let everybody know that note went out from Waste Management, said
Right.
parking lot 4.
It was parking lot 4 originally. Staff reviewed the situation due to some staffing limitations, particularly on Saturday. It was interfering with the overall parking of that once the event was closed, so we thought it would be better to move it to parking lot 5. So we've updated the flyer. We've been announcing it. We've updated our social media. We will have signage down in parking lot 4 that it's moved. And since it's only a half a block or so down the street,
Yeah.
we're optimistic that people can follow directions and can get there. But you are correct. It was parking lot 4 originally.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Murphy? All right, you're off the hook for another, you missed those bullets, so. All right, we'll move to item 5 on the agenda. Madam Clerk, would you read that for us?
AB 1234 and SB 1439 report out, ex parte communications, council comments, and requests.
Okay, anybody like to, Elizabeth?
I have a few things, because I attended a few different things, so if you,
Go for it.
okay. To let everybody know, on the 17th of July, I met with the Solvang School Superintendent Sierra Lowridge and Council Member Clau Arona, along with Susan Williams, to discuss the needs of the school. And we were specifically focused on looking at the parking lot, and they are needing funding for that. And I was hoping and encouraging her to come and speak to the council about what their needs are, because I know they have a limit. If they don't repair the parking lot in a timely manner, they're going to lose some grant money. I'm not sure of all the logistics of that, but I did encourage her to come and talk to the council and see how we can help, because we do, as a city, use that parking lot for tourists and other residents on the weekends. Also on the 17th, I was not able to attend the meeting, but I did Zoom in on the Design Review Committee meeting. I didn't participate, but I listened to I listened to everybody and the public comments, and I don't know if I can make a comment on comments I heard. Am I allowed to do that here? Okay. I became very concerned with comments made by Mr. St. George. He made statements that he, quote, will not build safe. Stop?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Just because it's, right, this portion of the agenda is really just to report what meetings
Okay,
you've been to,
no
in a
problem.
brief summary.
No problem. Okay.
If you have comments for staff, we can
Talk about that.
discuss
Okay.
yeah.
My apologies.
No, it's
So that's
okay.
why I asked. So it was a good meeting. So it was nice to hear what everybody had to talk about.
On the 21st of July, I zoomed in on the Goleta Special City Council meeting. Their focus was on the ICE activities in Santa Barbara County, and it was really nice to see all the public comments and the concern of the citizens. And it looks like they were making some decisions on allocating some money for that. So it was just nice to see the participation of the community getting involved with that. On the 23rd of July, I attended the Santa Barbara Vintners Association annual meeting at the Fest Parker Winery. Very informative. It was really nice to see how many people participated in that and attended, and just to see Allison and Phil's commitment to bringing tourism and driving, people to our valley. So that was really nice. And then I just want to do a shout out to Jose and the city for putting out this flyer in all of our water bills. I thought this was really great and informative, and I hope everybody read it. So thank you.
Thank you. Any others?
Just a quick one. The mayor and I attended the meeting that Randy referred to about the Alamo Pintado Bridge repair. They passed out a lot of great information on the design and schedules, which are going to take years. But anyway, it was an excellent meeting, and I think it's on recording, so people can go back and see it, can't they?
It was not on our normal website, so it was there's WebEx, so it was not recorded. Not, I don't believe it was recorded. Yeah, I'll reach out to Caltrans to see if they have a recording, but we didn't. We were unable to record it.
All right, thank you.
I just have a couple things. I have really felt like a bit of a summer vacation with our midsummer no meeting break. So I only attended really one meeting, which was I did attend in person the DRC meeting, the last meeting for July. And our GSA meeting was postponed for the month of July, so we'll pick it up again in August. I do have some requests, which are really directed to staff, mainly because one's a visual noticeable thing having to do with fire abatement. I know staff has been all over fire abatement around the city, but one noticeable area that I would ask for the staff to prioritize is on the way into the city between Nelson's and 5th Street. Just that section of open where HCA crosses under the main road. It just doesn't look good, and we need to prioritize getting those old dead pepper trees out, and some of the brush that goes all the way along the road feels like it's going to combust on its own. So really like to make sure that we get that addressed, but also make the city entrance look fit and finished on the way in. So hope to see some response to that. Second thing is we've gotten 2 really impassioned emails from the public around the water bills. And I think it's important to acknowledge we just in July upped the fees once again. And we're at the midpoint of a 5-year series of increases. So I would like to ask the staff to give us a midpoint assessment of where we are on the increases, both the baseline and the variables. Is it still in alignment with our cost coverage, especially with increasing demands on wastewater treatment and clean water from the state and other agencies? But also, are we meeting our reserve and hitting our targets to achieve the funding for the wastewater treatment plant? We haven't had an update lately. I saw it on future agenda. I'm asking for you to prioritize it along with a finance assessment on where we are to see if we really have to continue these next 2 years. Not sure the public knows. We have 2 more years of increases built into the plan. And that along with some recent stats that average selling price for a house in Solvang is $2 million. PG&E bills went up. We need to do what we can to make sure the city stays affordable for everyone. So I'm concerned about that, and the emails seem to support that the public's feeling the pain. And the last thing is the second request for pedestrian help from the public on Mission. And so maybe we need to be vocal with Caltrans that we need more attention from them on pedestrian crossings on the main drag, that we don't govern necessarily, but we take all the feedback and the complaints. So let's make sure we do the public right on that one too. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a list of things as I normally do. I want to shout out to the Parks and Recreation for the Junior Entrepreneur Program that they had a couple weeks ago. It was a great example of entrepreneurship and for our youth, and appreciate that activity for them. Again, I was at the Caltrans thing, and that's been discussed, so no need to go on over that. Music in the park, I think it's just been a big hit. Everybody that I've seen or talked to there has enjoyed it. They like the entertainment, the variations of different types of bands and so forth. So everybody, I think they enjoy that little hometown entertainment and respite. I had a meeting with the Community Environmental Council in Santa Barbara, and I noticed on their partner list it included every other incorporated city in the county except Solvang. And I took pause to why was that, so I wanted to talk to them and see what that entailed, and if there's something that we should be doing or should not be doing. So nothing yet from that meeting, just basically starting to build a relationship. Also met with Commander Bob Smith, who is a congressional candidate for the 24th District. I've been also to the SB, so some of you guys go on vacation, others we still work. We had a SB SCAG meeting and had a presentation in Santa Barbara for the last round of Highway 101 funds. So we procured a check for, I think it was $135 million for the completion of Highway 101 and through the Montecito area. And then also APCD has got a grant funding for eco-friendly assets. So it's a clean air grant funding for alternative fuel, whether it be tractors, gators, it can be industrial, agricultural, civic endeavors, and that grant is, I think it's just over $3 million available for those new or replacement assets. I want to send a thank you and a shout out to our maintenance team for the wastewater works. They created some brackets that they fabricated and saved us over roughly $25,000 in fees or cost associated with that. And then also they did some truck maintenance and saved us another $10,000. So hats off. I appreciate that get her done attitude and pitching in with that skill set that you have. And then finally, I wanted to bring up that I've had some discussions regarding our sign ordinance and how I think some of the unintended consequences of that have hit our nonprofit sector with regards to put a sign up at the mission. It's still $100, or they still need to pay the fee each and every time, or another location, and it's those fees that are incongruent with the idea of a fundraiser or advertisement that they're trying to put up. So I'm trying to think that maybe we might have some sort of revisit on that as it relates to nonprofits in the future. And then that's all I had. If there's anything else or other questions? Okay. Let's then move on to item 6. consent items. Would you read that into the record for us, please?
Consent is for routine administrative city matters and is approved with one motion. These items are discussed only on request of council members. Members of the public were afforded an opportunity to speak during the public communications portion of this agenda.
Thank you. Any questions or changes that you wish to make?
On the consent agenda? Sorry.
Please, yes.
Yeah, I'd like to pull one item on the consent agenda, which is really just a matter of reordering the agenda for tonight's section 8. So I would make a motion to approve consent agenda items 6B through 6K.
I'm looking at the,
Through I believe it only goes to I.
See, that happens to me every time it slips to
Or no.
another page.
Wait, no, it's,
Is it I or K?
hold on, I'm looking at the minutes from.
I don't have a K on mine.
Yeah, it's I.
Sorry. And maybe I did slip to the consent, did I? Sorry. I, sorry, my bad, I. That's the meeting minutes. There's 2 sets of agendas. So
Regarding-
should I restate it?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I make a motion to pull item 6A and approve consent items 6B through 6I.
Okay.
Second.
There's a second? It's been properly moved and seconded to the motion to approve item 6B through I and pull item 6A for discussion. Is that correct? Read back?
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Infante.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Claudia Arona, absent. Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Elizabeth Arona.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, we will then discuss item 6A. What did you have in mind?
Yeah, 6A is the order of the agenda, and so I'd like to just address section 8 of the current agenda and suggest that we reorder those discussion items to put the heavier discussion items up front. And so I'm suggesting that we move item D and E, the short-term rental ordinance discussion, and the E, the video surveillance policy, up to the second and third items on the agenda. And it looks as if we have public commentary to support that ordering.
So you would be A, D, E, B, C?
Yes.
Is there a second? Is that a motion?
It is a motion.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
I'll-
you have a comment?
I just wanted to comment, where the agenda is set up in this way, I understand the concern. Councilmember Arona and I had an email conversation about this earlier, just to explain. Candace is here to present B and C. She is an hourly employee, so to the extent the meeting goes on for any length of time, plus I'm sure she'd love to get back to her family a little sooner. So that's the reason those items, I typically would and do agree that the meatier items should be considered first. But in this case, that is the reason why the exception is that way. So just so the council makes an informed decision.
Thank you. I'm still waiting for a second, though, if there is one. Okay, the motion fails for lack of a second. We'll proceed with we still have to vote on item 6A. In the current order, A through E, do I need a motion if that? I'm just saying that.
I thought you
it's
just
been-
made it.
It's been pulled.
Yeah, so we do need a motion to adopt the
go back.
agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I move that we attack the agenda in the order it's been presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as stated or as presented. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Infante,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Claudia Arona, absent. Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Elizabeth Arona,
No.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-1.
Okay. Then we'll begin with, that concludes our business with item 6. So we are now on item 8. Would you read that into the record, please, Madam Clerk?
Item 8A, adopt resolution 25-1302, authorizing participation in the PARS Post-Employment Benefits Trust, termination of CalPERS CERBT, a trust-to-trust transfer of CERBT assets, and approval of a pension and OPEB funding policy.
Thank you. Staff report, please.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and members of the public. The city is a member of CalPERS that contributes funds to employee retirement and other post-employee benefits, which is OPEB, which is the OPEB, which is retiree health care. GASB regulations require the city to record the unfunded liability from both of those, and we do that every year in our ACFR. And the city's unfunded liability currently is $565,000 for this year, and as of 30/31, it's projected to be $1.3 million. Which is a 42.7 increase over the current contributions. Public Agency Retirement Services, PARS, has received approval from the IRS for a Section 115 trust. They manage and invest cities' monies, and PARS gives the city an alternative to CalPERS that allows for greater control over the city's assets and the investments. And with that, we can earn a higher rate of return than we currently do with CalPERS. So one of the ideas is to have the PARS trust so we can earn, our rate of return is higher than the rate of return that the unfunded liability increases to. And to date, over 500 county city agencies have adopted the Section 115 trust through PARS. And some of those nearby agencies are City of Santa Barbara, City of Goleta, City of Calabasas, City of Camarillo, City of Morro Bay, and City of Thousand Oaks. We do have a CBERT with CalPERS, which we pay the unfunded liability to them for our OPEB, our other post-employee benefits. Currently, our investment strategies is a level 2 with that, and we currently have $1.3 million invested in the CalPERS. So we are asking if you do approve the resolution to open up a Section 115 trust, that we transfer that to the PARS, just so we have better control of the investing in the funds. The alternatives tonight are to proceed with the PARS program as recommended, but you may select one of the 5 options for investment strategies, and Rachel will go over those with you in her presentation. Or we can explore an alternative to a different financial firm to manage a Section 115 trust, but that engaging with somebody else will cost the city more money to manage that trust. So with that, I'd like to introduce Rachel Sanders from PARS.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Glad to be with you this evening to present to you some additional information on the PARS 115 Trust. So I believe, do we have are we able to call the presentation up? Perfect. Sounds good. And while we're doing, okay, excellent, there it is. So I'm just going to briefly start with a little bit of background information on the next slide, which goes over PARS as well as our partners that are involved with us on this 115 Trust. So I appreciate Wendy giving you the background on PARS and our experience in working with over 500 public agencies to date on this trust, including many of your neighboring cities. I will note that PARS is the pioneer of this program. So we actually got started back with an OPEB pre-funding trust in 2004. And then in 2015, we got IRS approval to allow agencies to pre-fund their pension liabilities. And so we're currently the leading provider on that program, and again, are really experts in this area. So while PARS does all of the ongoing administration for the program and would help the city to get it established and really be the ongoing main point of contact, we do also work with a couple partners that you'll see on the screen. So you'll see that the trustee that we work with is U.S. Bank. U.S. Bank really provides that oversight protection as fiduciary of the plan assets. They are the 5th largest bank in the nation, so very reputable bank that we work with as trustee. And then, of course, on the bottom right-hand side, you'll note the investment manager is PFM Asset Management. PFM Asset Management ultimately partners with PARS and our member agencies to provide guidance and recommendations related to the investment. So I will be sharing with you what the city's options are for investments, but there will be a portfolio manager also involved in this arrangement who can give, again, recommendations and ongoing advisement for how to invest within this program. All right, so if we go to the next slide, this is just kind of a nice visual overview of how the trust is structured. So as has been referenced, cities and other public agencies have the opportunity to address either one or two liabilities within our combination 115 trust. So you'll see there that on the right-hand side, you have a pension bucket. So any monies going into the 115 trust into that pension account are dedicated for pension use only. So another way of explaining that is once money is set aside for pension, it can only be withdrawn for the city's CalPERS expenses. It can also be sent directly to CalPERS at any point in time to pay down the unfunded liability, but again, it is truly earmarked for the purposes of pension. Now, on the other side of the page, you'll see that there is also an account for OPEB, which is other post-employment benefits or the city's retiree medical benefits. Anything set aside in that account can only be withdrawn for the city's retiree medical expenses. So again, the 115 Trust is really to ensure that once the city sets money aside for the dedicated purpose, whether pension and or OPEB, it is in fact, again, only able to be withdrawn for those intended purposes. But again, the beauty of a 115 Trust is that it does have a different California government code section that applies to how you can invest the funds. So that's where Wendy alluded to the ability to earn a greater rate of return on these monies once they are set aside in a trust versus simply being earmarked within the city's general fund. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Perfect. And again, Wendy already did a great job in sort of projecting where the city's liabilities are going. So I hate to say we're right on the cusp of having the June 30th, 2024 update for you, but unfortunately it's not out quite yet. So you may be familiar with these numbers. These are the latest that are available with CalPERS, and they are as of June 30th, 2023. So you can see that as of June 30th, 2023, the city is about 71% funded, which is right in line with where we're seeing other cities. That is the average for the state of California. And really, the reason why so many cities are looking to tools like a 115 Trust is really reflected in the bottom two rows of this graph. So when they're doing forward-looking projections of where their contribution rates are expected to go, you can see that between last fiscal year and this fiscal year, you saw about an 18% increase in what you're paying to CalPERS. And when we project that out to fiscal year end 3031, we're looking at over a 42% increase. And unfortunately, that's not a trend that's unique to Solvang. It is something that we're seeing statewide with other cities. And it's really just a reflection of, CalPERS historically having fallen short of their discount rate. Anytime they make changes to their actuarial valuations, it ultimately impacts the city and how much the city has to contribute into the system. And so, again, really the crux of why cities look to a tool like this is to really gain local control when they're seeing increasing costs such as these. So the next slide, goes into the main reasons why we hear cities wanting to set up a 115 trust. So number one, I just alluded to, and it's a very common theme that we hear. I think cities are looking for ways to, get a handle on their increasing costs with CalPERS. And rather than just continuing to send ADPs, which are additional payments into CalPERS, which has been referred to by some city councils as an actuarial abyss, where you lose all control of that money, these 115 trusts really put the control in the city's hands, because ultimately you determine how much money you set aside, when you take the money out, and maybe more importantly, how that money is invested. So you don't have to swing for the fences like CalPERS is trying to do with their investments. The idea of rate stabilization, again, we showed you on the prior page those increasing costs over time, and knowing that you have a dedicated pot of money that you can go to hopefully smooth out or stabilize those rates as your costs do increase in future years gives you good peace of mind that you can hopefully help stabilize your budget. Rainy day fund concept, ultimately, your pension funds are going to be a large portion of your ongoing budget. And so having a dedicated pool of money for your pension expenses really does serve as a rainy day fund, so that if you find yourself in a difficult budgetary situation again, you can call upon those funds to help pay your annual pension expenses. And then last but not least, the idea of diversification. And we think of diversification in a couple different ways. Number one, as mentioned, you're able to diversify your investments outside of your general fund, giving you the opportunity to earn a greater rate of return over time versus simply adhering to the general fund investment codes. And number two, it's also a diversifying strategy outside of CalPERS. It's really not putting all your eggs in the CalPERS basket, so to speak, but again, choosing an investment strategy that best meets the needs of your city's objective. All right. Next slide. Perfect. And then the other motion was a consideration of transfer of the you're currently investing your OPEB assets with CalPERS in the CERBIT program. And so this is just a snapshot as of your 2024 ACFR as to where you were with your CalPERS liability. Just about 50% funded at this point in time. I know the staff report said closer to about 1.3 million was currently the total with CalPERS. So you're even higher than is reflected on this slide, which is great. And the next slide really kind of goes over some of the considerations for why we've seen other cities ultimately transfer their CERBIT assets to the PARS Trust. So, I think probably the biggest differentiator between PARS and CalPERS is our service model. The CalPERS service model is pretty much a hands-off model. You don't get regular updates and reviews from CalPERS, and the PARS team really prides itself on ongoing service. So I mentioned the portfolio management service with PFM. That applies to both the pension account as well as the OPEB account. They along with PARS, look at your actuarial valuations that you have to do every 2 years. We give consultative feedback, meeting with the city annually, updated recommendations as applicable on the investments. And again, we take a really hands-on approach. So not only is the service model greater, there's more flexibility in terms of actually getting money out of the OPEB trust. CalPERS only allows for 1 year versus 2 years that PARS allows for reimbursements. There's increased efficiencies by having both accounts in one trust, and the ability to see a fee reduction over time as assets grow in both accounts. There's an aggregation. We have more investment options than CalPERS does. And, maybe again, importantly for the council's consideration, if you look at the long-term history of net investment performance there on line 8, you can see that through 3/31, our comparable strategy did about 6% net of all fees versus 4.78% on strategy 2. So we've continued to see this trend over time that net of all fees, we have outperformed CalPERS in addition to our higher service model. Okay. So I've alluded to the investment options several times now, and this page provides you with what those options are. So we have a range of options for every member agency that we work with. The most conservative option has about 15% in stocks, and then we go all the way up to the bottom right there, which has about 75% in stocks, and we have everything in between. And so, one thing that's important to note is, we understand that everybody is different in terms of what their objectives objectives are for this trust. And you, in fact, may have a different objective for OPEB than you do for pension. For example, most agencies that pre-fund both OPEB and pension in our trust tend to take a longer term time horizon with OPEB, usually 20, 30 years, as is stated in their actuarial valuation, and may look to go a little bit more aggressive on OPEB and maybe have a shorter term time horizon for needing to tap into those pension funds. So all of those considerations, along with, of course, risk tolerance at the city, are taken into account when those discussions with the portfolio manager begin. And ultimately, again, that portfolio manager will provide guidance and feedback on which strategy will best help meet the city's objectives. Anecdotally, I would say, we're asked oftentimes which is the most commonly chosen strategy. For pension, right in between moderately conservative to moderate, which has anywhere between 30 to 50% in stocks, very common for pension. OPEB actually tends to be more a balanced strategy, which has about 60% in stocks. But again, we've seen agencies that have chosen every single one of these strategies here, and you can see what those corresponding return expectations are. And then this slide is actually a look back. So we were showing you their return projections, and these are their historic returns as of March 31st. So I will note that when we had to provide this presentation to meet Brown Act requirements, we only had the 331 data at that point. And I do have the 630 numbers, which I can just verbally mention quickly, do look much better than the 331 numbers. So that's the good news. The 1 year column, conservative was at about 7.5%, all the way up to capital appreciation, which was almost 12%. So it was actually a very strong 1 year period as of 6/30, again, showing the benefit to agencies that would have been investing in this program over the last year. But again, these are the historic numbers through 3/31. Okay, and then we are, of course, transparent when it relates to our fees as well. There's no cost to set up the plan, and so all of the fees are just based on the assets in the trust program and nothing outside of that. So you can see here that the PARS fees are at 0.25% for assets under 10 million. Our partners at US Bank and PFM have combined fees at 35 basis points or 0.35% for any assets under 5 million. So all in, the city would never pay anything more than 0.6% of the total assets. Outside of that, nothing else would ever be charged. There's no trading or transaction fee, no, audit fees, accounting fees. Everything that we do for our ongoing services are included in these asset-based fees. And again, nothing else would ever be charged. All right. And then last but not least, this is just a quick overview of what the steps to implementation would look like if the city ultimately decided to proceed with establishment of a trust. So tonight, you would be asked to approve a resolution. That resolution appoints a plan administrator who ultimately is given the authority to sign off on all of the legal documents needed to set up the trust. If indeed this is passed, we would then work with the plan administrator to get all of those signature-ready legal documents in place, to then work with our trustee US Bank to get the account set up, and then we would work with the team again to speak to those investment selections with a portfolio manager, work on getting instructions for how to actually transfer the money over when the city is ready to contribute. And again, we would meet with the city at least once a year for updates, but we can, of course, meet more regularly than that as desired by council and/or staff. So I know that is a lot of information, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Infante?
Yeah,
Lead us
well,
off.
the first one that comes to mind is that we're going to appoint a plan administrator. Is that somebody on our staff? So it's a Wendy or?
It's
Oh,
the Randy
really?
Murphy, city manager, or his designee.
Okay.
I'm going to invest in the San Francisco Giants.
If we don't approve this tonight, and we want to take some time to think about it and look at how this is going to work out, is there a restriction? Is there a requirement that it be done right away? What's the limits?
From PAR's standpoint, no limits on our end. We've been around since 1984, and I don't think we're going anywhere. So no problem on our end if more time is needed. But
Thank you.
sure.
I have a question. Can you explain, there's an option to be either active or passively managed.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between the two approaches? And are the projected 5-year and 30-year rates. There is a note that says they're net of fees. And does the fee vary whether you're active or passively managed?
Great question. So yes, there are, for each of those 5 strategies that I shared, there is an additional option of active versus passive management. So the active option is where the portfolio manager is actively trying to outperform the benchmark. And so they're using actively managed mutual funds to do that. The passive option is where the portfolio manager is using index funds or ETFs. So really just kind of following the benchmark. So to your second question, there is a difference between the two in terms of the embedded fund level fees. So the active management fund level fees are a little bit higher than the passive fees, but those are all netted out of performance. So when we show performance numbers, those fees have already been accounted for in terms of the net returns for each.
Do you have data you can share on what has been performance for actively managed portfolios versus passive?
I do, yes. So let's look, for example, I'm just going to let me take the moderate strategy here. And sorry, let me just circle these. Okay, so 10 years for a moderate strategy, which is the middle of the road investment. The active strategy has done 6.43% over 10 years net of all fees. The index strategy has done 6.3% net of all fees. So the active slightly has outperformed the active over time. And that actually tends to be the trend with all of the strategies.
Thank you.
Sure.
This may be a stupid question, but is there any type of penalty from switching from where we're at to moving into, no?
No penalty. Nope. And we've had a number of agencies that have transferred assets. And yeah, we've worked with CalPERS on these types of transfers before, and there is no penalty.
So we do have one more follow-up question. For the actively managed, is there more frequent review or is it still default to an annual review?
Great question. So the reviews are defaulted to annual, whether the city chooses active or passive. And just to clarify, there is a portfolio manager who also is actively managing the passive funds. It's really just a kind of a philosophical question as to whether or not the city prefers an active or passive approach. But either way, we meet at least annually. And again, we can meet more than annually if needed by the city as well.
Mr. Murphy?
Rachel, can you explain why we obviously have some assets in reserves and theoretically could pay off our PERS obligation today? Why does that not eliminate our debt in its entirety?
Yeah. So, and this is a commonly asked question, is why not just give CalPERS the money? And so this is something that we've actually seen other agencies do, and this has come up from agencies who have adopted this trust. I've worked with agencies that actually have been fully funded under CalPERS because they did send additional money to CalPERS. And as I alluded to, unfortunately, even if you are fully funded with CalPERS at one point in time, there's no guarantee that you will remain fully funded. And what I've seen in working with some cities who have set up this trust is that they were fully funded. CalPERS changed their discount rate. They didn't meet their return assumption. And unfortunately, they found themselves back in a position where they were less than fully funded. And so that really goes to the heart of the trust as an option for cities is, again, that idea of local control, that this is something that the city is holding on to. It's tangible assets that you know are there to pay CalPERS when you need it, rather than just sending the money to CalPERS in hopes that you'll continue to be fully funded when there's certainly no guarantee that that will carry on into the future.
Thank you. As I understand, there's one trust, but two buckets, you're saying?
Exactly right. Yeah, it's an IRS-approved combination trust. And so it's one trust umbrella that has a private letter ruling from the IRS. And within that one trust umbrella, there are two accounts that can be opened, one to pre-fund pension, the other to pre-fund OPEB. So the city can utilize both of those accounts, but they are kept completely separate and apart. As Wendy alluded to, there's different governmental accounting standards for pension versus OPEB, so there's no cross-sharing of the liabilities or assets. So two separate accounts, but they are under the same umbrella.
Okay. And you mentioned the fees for that, and I'm going back to that page, are those monthly fees or are they annual?
Oh, great question.
They don't
Yeah, so
say.
the fees are charged monthly. So I mentioned the 0.60 being the maximum fee that the city would pay. That is an annual fee. So when we divide that by 12, we're looking at 5 basis points or 0.05% per month that would be charged.
And it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is somewhat of a no confidence vote in PERS, if I understand, if from the way you've presented it.
You know, I won't necessarily go as far as to say it's a no confidence vote in PERS. I think, you know, there are cities out there that I think transferring the OPEB assets is, you know, at direction of staff because they've seen the benefits of using the PARS trust versus the PERS trust. I think in terms of setting up a pension pre-funding account, perhaps it can be viewed as a no confidence in PERS, but I think ultimately it's a way to diversify outside of PERS. Even if you do have some confidence in PERS, I think everyone wants PERS to do well. Obviously, it's for the benefit of all public agencies if PERS does do well. It's a way, though, to, again, not put all your eggs in the PERS basket and really, again, get that local control to use the trust in a way that meets your objectives and invest in a way that you want to outside of what CalPERS is mandating. So,
Yeah, but regardless of what this trust, how it performs or otherwise, we will still have the same liabilities to PERS.
That's correct.
At their rates, at their beck and call, if you will.
Correct. And so the majority of your assets will still lie with CalPERS. As noted, you're, you know, over 70% funded with CalPERS right now. And so you will still be making your annual payments to CalPERS. This would just be a separate bucket of money where you're pre-funding and setting additional funds aside.
And are there minimums to start, or is there?
Nope.
Is that at our discretion?
Absolutely at your discretion. We have agencies that have this open and on the shelf that haven't contributed anything and are not being charged anything. We have other agencies. I've worked with an agency that started with just $10,000. So it's really, again, all shapes and sizes and completely at the city's discretion.
So I don't perceive this as a downvote for PERS, but an option. And grateful the staff has brought us another option because it's basically we're committed to the game in perpetuity. So now we have to figure out how do we get as far ahead as we can in the game. But so if more agencies participate in this secondary option, does it harm PERS in any way over time?
No, it doesn't. I mean, well, that's, I guess, a double-edged sword. How do I answer this? I suppose you could say that if agencies are choosing to set money aside in a trust versus sending what are called ADPs or additional discretionary payments above and beyond what's required to PERS, PERS ultimately would benefit, obviously, I think, from getting more additional payments from agencies. But every agency, regardless of whether or not they have a trust, still has the annual payments that they have to make to CalPERS. So CalPERS is still getting a very large source of incoming contributions from every public agency. They're just maybe not getting as much additional contributions above and beyond those if more and more agencies are starting to utilize these 115 trust programs.
Mr. Murphy.
You go first.
Okay. Just so you know, in the budget, we have $500,000 earmarked to fund the trust. And every year going forward, we would take a percentage of the revenue over expense, not to exceed the $500,000 annually.
That's the plan. And what I was going to say in regard to your comment about kind of a no faith in PERS, we're obligated to make those payments every year, pretty much in perpetuity, as was commented. Those rates, their rates of return are assumptions based on, again, projections on market performance. We saw earlier this year, the market was down pretty big. It's obviously come back and then some. But initially, had that market performance continued, their requirement of us to make the contribution for next year or maybe the year after would be significantly higher. As Wendy pointed out, we're already looking at doubling essentially almost just in 7 or 8 years. The opportunity to invest in a vehicle outside of PERS where we have more control over what those investments are and we're not subject to the vagaries of public opinion on what they can invest in. Things, there have been banning of, I'm just using this and I'm not making a political statement in the sense of they don't invest in tobacco companies anymore. They don't invest, or at least there was discussion at one point about not investing in oil companies. They don't invest in gun manufacturers. All those things affect the rate of return. So we're not limited to that in these investments. And again, we'll follow council direction if any of those things are sensitive issues. But the fact of the matter remains, we can do better having control of the investment vehicles for the extra money so that in 7 or 8 years, when that increase in PERS deposits are required, and we don't have that additional $600,000 to pay PERS, we can dip into our investment and pay it, or at least a portion of it. It helps smooth or otherwise balance our PERS liability. And that's the reason why we're bringing this forward.
And another way to look at it is you're taking the money that we have invested in 5-star and California class, and we're putting it into the Section 115 trust to have a higher rate of return. So it's not money that we're not sending CalPERS. It's money that we already have currently invested in earning, between 4 and 4.5% currently.
If I may, would you expect our administrator to be an active investor?
I can answer that if you'd like. Yeah, are you referring to the plan administrator?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so he does not need to be an active investor. So I'll just kind of explain how this would work. So ultimately, the city manager or successor designee position would have the authority to authorize the investment selection choice. But by no means does that mean that he is doing the investing himself. That's where our partners at PFM Asset Management come into play. So we work with experts on 115 Trust investments that will meet with the city manager and other team members as needed to make presentations, understand what the city's needs are, and ultimately provide that advisement. We will be sending to the plan administrator as well as any other staff members that would like to get it monthly reports as well as quarterly investment reports. So while the city manager can certainly review these reports, he himself will not be making active changes. That would be under the advisement of the portfolio manager that we work with.
So would changes then to strategies come before the council to approve or be the plan administrator?
As the policy and the resolution state right now, it's up to the plan administrator to decide where the funds, what level of risk you want, that the city wants to take. But an alternative to that is you guys can decide where and how you want that money invested. So that's an alternative to the resolution and the policy. Does that make sense?
I can help clarify too. So the resolution before you does several things, one of which is to adopt a funding policy.
Right.
And as currently drafted, the funding policy puts the selection of which investment level, risk level with the city manager as the plan administrator. We could, if you directed us, we could amend the funding policy to have those types of decisions come before council instead. We don't expect you to pick tonight because you'd want to.
There's five choices,
and
in
you'd
that,
want to have some more
conservative
information.
to balanced or whatever they're called, and I think the other. Please correct me, but I think the other decision we need to make is whether it's managed by PFM or not. Is that
No,
active or passively
it's all
managed?
automatically managed by PFM.
It would be.
Correct. Under the discretionary arrangement, which is what I presented on tonight, which 99% of our agencies go with, it is PFM. There is another option to go directed if you prefer to choose your own investment advisor, but only 2 out of our 500 plus have gone that route. So it's most go with PFM.
No,
I don't think that's our expertise.
Yeah, fair enough.
not somebody who goes for San Francisco.
And you also, you don't want to have all your eggs in, the highest risk fund. You want to be diversified, and
have a balanced portfolio as well.
And working with Wendy, with the other investments we have, we're more limited because it's a general fund monies. But we've done a pretty good job in managing those assets. And obviously, we're seeing some pretty significant growth in our interest income. So I'm confident that we'll continue that success.
Well, I'll give a reaction to that because even over the last year and a half, the moves that we've made to increase our interest earning positions on a lot of reserve and capital have been very positive. So this is yet another, sort of move in that direction. I have one more question. I'm going to make some other comments. So there are 5 choices here. It's conservative, moderately, conservative, moderate, balanced, and capital appreciation. Of those 5 choices, what is the most common selection? I think you said it was moderate.
Yeah, so dependent upon agencies, whether they're pre-funding for OPEB or for pension. For pension, it's fairly evenly split between moderately conservative, which is about 30% in equity, to moderate, which is about 50% in equity. For OPEB, we tend to see the balanced strategy, which is about 60% in stocks, most commonly chosen. But again, we have agencies that have chosen every single one of those 5, so it's really dependent upon the goals of the agency.
There's 0.2% on a 5-year return difference and a 30-year scenario too. So seems like balanced. See, that would be logical why more people go that way. Okay.
Have any comments? And what action would the board like to take?
I
with
have some
this?
comments. I really would. I think this is I want to commend the staff for bringing this forward because I think it is a validated trust-to-trust scenario that helps us advance our position or accelerate our position in a IRS-approved way to draw down our PERS obligations or payment obligations. So I'm very open to finding a way to enable this with the right policies, and the right policy adjustment I would make is that the council gets a role in validating which tier or risk profile we choose, and should we see a recommendation in an annual review that is suggestive we change that position, that it also comes back to council. So we have some layered oversight because it's relatively new program for us.
I like that a lot.
I just want to note we have not yet had public comment on this item.
Thank you.
But we will. Mr. Murphy?
I also just wanted to point it out that reducing our unfunded liability was among the council goals that was discussed in March of 23, 24, whenever it was, 24.
Okay. Well, as noted, I will now open it up for public comment. If there is any here locally in the room, any on Zoom? I'm not seeing any hands going up. Yes, Mr. Jackson.
All depends on what day I pick to come, Mayor Brown, council members, whatever strikes my interest at a time. However, fundamentally, your hospital foundation board is having a very similar discussion on its investment policy statement and its risk-adjusted profile, and it's the same various types of groupings. So I would encourage you not to make rapid changes in those, perhaps each year assess, because what you are giving yourselves is a tool to control the when of when you offset the delta with PERS. It doesn't change the fact that you owe it, but face the day when a significant burden on your water fund draws a significant amount of capital. What would be the better way to meet those differences? It helps you time, be responsive, and manage as well the influence or the investment gains and potential you have. At the same time, I would say, given the amount of numbers you're talking about and assigning an employee to be the active manager, the yield between that 0.1% of active and passive may not be all that big a number, but it might be an awful lot of time for whomever you pick to do it. So you want to have some confidence in your investment manager. Look very closely at your risk and whether the return and the allocations fit your tolerance, and then stay there until such time as you change that. Just a way of looking at it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I will close the public comment section and bring it back to council for further discussion. How would you like to respond?
Well, I'll make a motion then, because unless my peers feel like you need a little more time, I would say we can we can move to adopt this resolution, which is 25-1302, to authorize the adoption of the trust agreement, the appointment of a planned administrator, to add the request that the council sees a recommendation on the risk profile and we revisit it annually.
If I may help clarify that. So I'm looking on page 111 of the agenda, which is in the funding policy. And I think we could accomplish what you're suggesting, Member Rona, by just making some amendments to the roles and responsibilities section. So that section at the bottom of 111, council is currently, as it's drafted, it says council approves this policy and any subsequent amendments, authorizes trust withdrawals, and reviews annual funding reports. And you could give us direction to add, like approve the resolution with direction to add language here that says the council shall also select the investment strategy and annually review that strategy. And I think that would cover what you're talking about. So you'd adopt the policy and then with that amendment.
I agree with everything you just said, except I don't know that the council needs to recommend the risk profile or the investment policy. I think we just need to review what the plan administrator suggests, and we have a chance to disagree or agree.
Okay, so then I would say you could adopt the resolution and, with the following amendment, that city council shall review annual funding reports and approve the investment strategy selected by the plan administrator.
Yes.
Okay.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Infante?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Claudia Rona, absent. Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Elizabeth Rona?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Now, my next.
Thank you.
My next question is.
Thank you.
To what level are we putting, and which bucket goes where? Is that our next choice, or is that a later discussion?
It will be it can be a discussion. We can, at like the next council meeting, we can bring forward the investment options for the active and the investment options for the other one, and you guys can choose from there. Or
It's not so much the choice, but the initial investment amounts is what I was referring to.
oh, we have up to 500,000.
Up to,
Already.
Yeah.
is that, all right.
Yeah.
So that's what we
We have-
budgeted.
Yeah, we have budgeted 500,000, but it's up to 500,000 in the policy.
Thank you.
Right.
And the resolution you all just adopted also, it did, as you can tell by the recommended motion and the title, it did several things. It appointed the plan administrator, authorized, creation of this trust, but also to do what we need to do to move those funds from the CalPERS OPEB fund that we've been using. So that also is money into the PARS Trust.
But I think to follow on to the mayor's comment, we will get a report from staff on what we're going to do.
Yes. We'll bring it, yes. If it all works out time-wise, it could be the next council meeting. If not
It's 4 weeks away, so that gives you plenty of time.
if not, then the following one.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move on to item 8B, Wine Country Marathon update.
Wine Country Marathon Update, 8B.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, public. I'm Candace LeBaire, your marketing events coordinator. Tonight, I am going to give you a Wine Country Half Marathon update on this event. This event takes place for us every May on Mother's Day weekend. It's an annual event and has been taking place since 2008. Current participation in this event is 2,500 participants. This is just participants too, because people come with their families, they come with friends, so it really is an event that brings lots of people and visitors to Solvang. 30% are from out of state, and we have representation from 6 countries at this event. 56% travel more than 100 miles away to get here. 65% of the entries are female versus 35 male. This event brings significant economic benefit to Solvang and the surrounding area, actually. It drives hotel occupancy to capacity, and it enables premium 2-night stay minimums, and it achieves some of the highest ADRs, our average daily rates of the year, and this is per lodging properties feedback. May, TOT and sales tax was up 20% year over year with this event in 2025. We did have some concern raised with this event. So businesses were concerned about access issues from the finish line placement on Copenhagen. We had incomplete post-event cleanup in Solvang Park, parking lot 2, and throughout the course. There was turf damage in Solvang Park, and concerns were raised about the limited recognition of Solvang as the host city, as Solvang was not located on the logo and some of the web and social posts. So we have put some stipulations and mitigations measures in place for 2026. The event organizer is doing everything that we have asked, and these are what we have laid out. The course layout, we are going to relocate the finish line to minimize downtown business disruptions. The finish line will still be in downtown. We want the finish line to be there so everyone finishes in our downtown. Then they'll go to our wineries and shop and eat. So we just are going to adjust the placement so there is as little impact as possible to the businesses and where the finish line is at. A revised route is being approved by the city and is coming forth from the event organizer. We've seen a couple options. Cleanup and equipment removal. There is going to be a contract required with a city-approved cleanup vendor, also for extended cleanup time. Staff is working also with Santa Barbara County as their part of the course is in a different jurisdiction, and so they are also requiring the same contract. There was comments about the course and some of the plastic, drink things being thrown everywhere, so this will take care of that. Additional waste recycling bins are going to be required all along the entire route. Full removal of waste materials from all areas in the timeline required will happen. Park and turf protection, no metal-based equipment will be on the grass without protective pads or risers. This will be purchased at their expense. Organizers are responsible for any damage repairs, as they were this year, and they were compliant. They paid to bring back the turf in the park to the manner in which they received it. Branding and host city recognition. Solvang, California will be prominently featured in all marketing and event materials. It'll be on the logo, it'll be on the event banner, it'll be on the website, it'll be in all social posts. The event name will still be Santa Barbara Wine Country Half Marathon because it's been that way for so many years. That is their marketing. We will be on everything as well, Solvang, California, prominently displayed. Compliance deposit. We are going to be requiring of this event a $5,000 refundable deposit due 21 days prior to the event. This is to cover city costs, any extra staff time, cleanup, and any unused funds will be returned to them after inspection. The compliance deposit is also in addition to any and all other required special event fees, and they have committed to that. The fiscal impact, there's no direct fiscal impact from this report. The city recovers event-related costs through the permit process and the compliance deposit. And that is my update of the Wine Country event. Do you have any questions?
I'm concerned that particular date, the Mother's Day weekend, would we not be full anyway because of the special day that we have?
We definitely get increased traffic from it. We had many lodging properties come forward at the TMAC when we presented this for discussion. Their concern is that's one of the marketing strategies of this event. That's why there's so much female participation in the event, and we get all that extra traffic from that coming here on that special weekend because women are participating in the event and they're coming to they're making it a weekend and they're staying.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
No.
Okay. All right.
I just wanted to point out, we brought this forward. There were some concerns raised the last couple of years based on, the perceived inconveniences to the businesses. And so Candace has been working with the event organizer and with the local businesses, with the TMAC, and we've come up with a pretty good strategy to mitigate a lot of those impacts. And they're working with us cooperatively. They made it clear that, we talked about moving into a different weekend, but the reason they do it on Mother's Day is, they said, the female percentage of participation. And, just like all of our events, some of them have a positive impact on individual businesses. I mean, Max at the shoe store says he's crazy busy. Obviously makes sense. They're runners. They need shoes and things like that. Other businesses will complain they don't get much business, but that's not the clientele typically that get attracted. But other events happen where the reverse is true. So it's all about finding a balance. But anyway, we wanted to provide this information to council and to the community so that they understood we are working. And if to the extent there are other issues that we haven't addressed or something comes up next year, please let us know and we'll work with the organizers to modify that.
Well, I want to thank you for being receptive and making the modifications and mending fences and taking care of the litter and all the other items. So it's appreciated.
Yeah.
You're listening and you're taking action. That's much appreciated.
Thank you. One thing I do want to note on the event logo, they have quite a few T-shirts that still have the old logo on it, and we have approved that they can finish those up, but anything new being made, and all the new bibs, all the new stuff that's designed for every runner, that will have the new logo on it. They do have an inventory and T-shirts, swag per se, that they sell in the vendor booths, and they're going to finish up what they have, and then they have the new logo will be on that.
Yeah, I guess to the extent they want to work with any of the retailers in town for licensing or merchandise sales, I think that would be an open discussion as well. If they're,
To be a vendor
if they're so
at the
inclined,
event,
yeah,
yeah.
to the event organizer
Yeah.
and their staff. And then now, though, it's time for public comment, if there is any. Anybody online? Okay, thank you. We'll close public comment and bring it back. Is there any other discussion? Because there's no action item here. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 8B. Would you read that into the record for us, please?
Item 8C, Yule Fest Planning Update.
Thank you.
It's almost
Staff report.
So I will also be doing an update on our YuleFest 2025 planning. So the event overview, our feature signature lineup for YuleFest will be similar to what we've had in the past. We'll have the tree lighting ceremony, our YuleFest parade. We're going to have Santa's Village. We are expanding Santa's Village. We're elevating Santa's Shed. The light and music show will be integrated into that section of Solvang Park now. So the lights will be on the shed and will be on the whole scene, and that will go off to the whole music and light show. So it'll be a much more cohesive show for everyone. I'm excited about that. We have the nightly light music. We are possibly adding snow to these shows. So we're really close to knowing if we can support all that electrically, so I can't commit, but it looks very, very good. We have the Makers Market series. We have our New Year's event, Copenhagen Countdown, which will also be expanded and have a nice feature for the actual countdown this year, and the tree burn. So the goal is to deliver an exceptional lineup of festive events that attracts and engage our visitors, but while maintaining a balanced approach that respects our residents' quality of life through effective public safety, traffic management, and parking solutions. We all know these are things every year that we have to look at when YuleFest comes because of how popular it is and how many people come. We have approximately 800,000 out-of-market visitors in December alone. So the things we are doing, we're looking at parking and access management. So we have a significant parking demand during YuleFest, needless to say. We're exploring partnerships with private property owners to expand our parking options. Also, Lot 72 has been moving forward. There's a meeting scheduled for this coming Thursday between all agencies involved to actually see some movement on this, which is very exciting. And improved wayfinding signage to reduce congestion and maintain optimal traffic flow. Pedestrian safety and traffic flow. So we have a high pedestrian vehicle conflict point at Alisal Road and Copenhagen Drive. And in 2024, the solution, we had multiple crossing guards at that one intersection. So in 2025, what we are proposing is a partial closure of Copenhagen Drive from First Street to Alisal Road for the whole month of YuleFest. What this will do is it'll reduce congestion at that intersection because there will be no right or left-hand turns. We will only have to be worrying about traffic going
North and south.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, north and south. It'll also eliminate the need for one crossing guard there, which we will reallocate to other intersections because we are also going to be putting crossing guards at First in Copenhagen and Atterdag in Copenhagen. So this will create for a much more seamless flow in where all that pedestrian and traffic gets clogged up. We're also proposing a temporary closure of First Street from Mission Drive to Copenhagen Drive for our high attendance events like tree lighting ceremony and Copenhagen Countdown. Because what we found with this last year is when the event released, everyone poured into the street and we did not have it closed down. So for the safety of our visitors and our residents, we need to have that street closed. Anticipated benefits will be improved pedestrian experience, a safe car-free zone for families and children, enhanced public safety. There's going to be fewer vehicle conflict points, and it'll just be a more streamlined flow altogether. We do have to give some consideration to the closure on Copenhagen, as we will have a loss of 30 parking spaces with that closure. But with the Lot 72 and the other private properties that we're looking at, we should be expanding more than that. The alternatives, if council wishes to modify the changes proposed, please provide alternative direction. Fiscal impact, all the added costs for the crossing guards, the signage, the barricades, are covered in the existing YuleFest budget. And also with the closure of First, we will be, it'll be decorated. It'll be a statement piece, not just a road closed for YuleFest. You can also see the attachments have the proposed closures on your attachment A. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes.
Go ahead.
the question that comes to mind almost immediately is, if you're going to close off Copenhagen, are you going to allow the restaurants, bars, whatever, to put tables on the street?
No, there will be direction given to them that the code that's in place for what they have set up for their restaurant now is what they'll have when the road is closed. We will work with Raphael on direction to go out to those businesses.
That's good to hear, because that's it's been a
Right,
bone
it's
of
a concern.
contention over the years.
Yeah, the purpose of this closure is pedestrian safety. Obviously, there's a lot of, and there were no serious conflicts that actually happened, but as was pointed out about crossing 246 near the library, there is a serious risk, and people are oblivious. Visitors are oblivious to the fact that we are actually a working, legitimate city. They think we're Disneyland, and they walk out in the street with no consequence. And we've been, knock on wood, we've been pretty fortunate that we haven't had a serious injury, but all it takes is one. So we're trying to be proactive in that regard.
And proactive in comments that we've heard from residents and how the traffic congestion has made things hard.
No, it's a great idea. I was just curious, because I know some of the people are going to want to put a table out. I just know they will. And the closing off of First Street is only going to be for certain periods?
Yes, it'll be a temporary
Christmas
closure
tree
just
lighting.
for the event, day and night.
Because that's going to affect the Winston
Right.
and access in and out of their parking lot. Okay,
So
it's been done before. I'm just glad you're on top of it.
So with current special events that happen, if First Street is closed, there is a procedure that we have with the Winston in place on how we get their guests into their hotel safely.
And we will be very diligent about communicating with the businesses that are affected by this.
I have two questions. Candace loved the snow idea because, speaking of Disneyland, it's a hit and less obtrusive than ice skating rink. So is it a no-go on ice skating rink?
For this year, yeah, we tabled it. We just don't have really the capacity for an ice skating rink or the correct spot for it. It has so much logistics and infrastructure it needs in regards to power to keep the ice cool all the time, and the sound from the generators that would need for that. So this is kind of a nice alternative to that.
Still wintry.
Yes.
Second question, the parking partnerships, will we still ensure that parking is free?
Yes, parking will be, lot 72, and what we're looking at is for parking just like we have in the rest of our city. I think Randy.
Yeah, I was going to point out, Councilmember Smith talked about the school and the partnership we have with them. There's nothing in our agreement with them that precludes them from charging for parking. And that was part of the conversation I had with the school superintendent, is that there are people that would be willing to pay for parking to not have to drive all over the place to find it. So if they want, but that'll be part of the agreement, and we're going to bring something back to council, a new MOU with them on, et cetera. As far as other private parking, private properties, we can't control that. That might be the means that they use to allow that property being used for parking. We actually have a conversation, a meeting set up with another property owner, private property owner next week, that will possibly open up some additional parking. So we're investigating all options. I don't know. I mean, we certainly would encourage them to offer it at for free, but if it's a matter of charging $5 or $10 for all day parking and having another 50 or 100 parking places, again, it's not the city charging it; it's a private property owner.
That's similar to special events that you go to. If I go to the Coliseum and I want to park in a better spot, then you pay for it. So, understood. I'm going to open it up to public comment if there is any. Yes, Mr. Beebe, please enlighten us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, thank you for your service to the community. So, two things, Candace. Will there be a reindeer this year?
A reindeer?
Yeah, they're caribou, but but they fly.
Oh, you mean like a live reindeer or a reindeer in the parade or there are no plans for a live reindeer as of yet.
Next is your wayfinding statement says signage, and I guess you need signage, but if possible, I encourage you to put the wayfinding instructions where people can use their phones to find these parking places. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Mr. Peterson?
Evening, Aaron Peterson, Solvang. Yeah, I spoke to Candace about this. I think it's great. The Mother's Day thing is great too. I like the weekends that it's on. Anytime we close east-west roads, anytime, it's a nightmare. I mean, if people don't believe Copenhagen is a thoroughfare, a bypass, if you will, stand by the Blue Windmill, stand in front of Peasants Feast, stand anywhere along Copenhagen, and you'll see cars doing this. Now, I applaud that this is going to, we'll see how that works. But we're still putting a cork in an east-west bottle, and not just at night, not just weekends, but I'm assuming you're saying like 30 days of the entire month. And if there was a way that we could count that before this all happens and then count it during it and see what's happening to these side streets. I know it's a special event, but the 13th of December is a Wednesday, and it's going to be closed. And I'm telling you, the kids that go through high school and the people that are commuting, they go down Oak Street, they use all the bypasses they can, and closing that off that whole time, it's a good time for us to study it, is my point. Don't miss the opportunity for us to study, because there's still discussions, should we close Copenhagen permanently? You know, from Atterdag down to from first down, so here, or second down. So here's a good time to kind of see what the cork in the bottle does. Not at the high peak times, but I mean just throughout the day at 10 o'clock in the morning or 3 in the afternoon. So that's my only comment. We chatted about this before. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Anybody on Zoom? All right, then. I'll bring it back to the dais for any other comments.
One last question. Aaron brought up a good point. We're going to do it for 30 days constantly, blocking off Copenhagen. Why not do it for 4 days on each weekend, leave a couple days in the middle? I'm not sure it'll help any, but what was the thinking?
So the closure, just to make sure everyone's clear, will just be from Alisal to First.
Right.
It is not all of Copenhagen.
I understand.
It's also to make sure that we can, we want to make it a statement piece too. So we want to put things going over the street possibly, like make it be part of Yule Fest. So if we do that, we can't go back and forth. Also, then it's just people know. It's the whole, if we start possibly doing a weekend here or a couple days here, then our residents, nobody knows. If it's for the whole time, they know this section's closed off, and that's what it is.
Thank you.
A couple of things you might consider. I'd like to think that maybe your market, or your, what do you call them?
The Maker's Market?
Maker's Market, pop-up markets. That could easily also be done probably at the Veterans Building on that lawn or somewhere around there for that type of thing. And we don't want to compete directly with downtown merchants who are paying those rents and so forth. And I'm not sure. So just an idea. And then I do know that it's been offered, and don't know if it'll be ready, but the Storybook Building on the corner, it was implied that would be available to us for our Yule Fest season for decoration and access before it's occupied.
So my understanding with that property is that the goal is that they're hoping that they can open it up for people to kind of tour through, but not that we would have our market there.
Okay. All right. Mr. Peterson, you might add to that. You can add to this probably as a...
Aaron Peterson, Solvang. So we've chatted, and Candace and I also talked about that we're not ready to get open and be renting by February. I don't know when. It's certainly not going to be at Christmas. So the thought was that we might want to do a European Christmas market in that square. It's bigger than it looks from the street. You get inside and you can get a lot of folks in. keep it limited. We'd have to do the special event permit and things like this, and would string the lights, and would we allow little crafts people to come in, not competing with what you do in the park. You and I had chatted about the dates. You know, maybe we do it not on the Wednesday. We don't want to do that. So we need to coordinate that. So it wouldn't be giving it over to the city. It would be doing it, and we would allow the local, it would be a European Christmas market. That's what we're kicking that around, organizing it to and also showcase for the holidays the new buildings, and people could really see it. But anyway, that's what we're thinking.
Thank you. And so anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. If there's nothing else, we'll move on. Okay, thank you, Candace. 8D, as in Delta. Would you read that for us, please?
Direction on short-term rental ordinance amendment.
Thank you. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So this evening before you is an item in regards to the framework of our proposed amendment to the short-term rental vacation rental ordinance. We did come to you in March of 2025. You directed city staff to begin work on amending the vacation rental ordinance, which was dated, and we did note that quite a few issues with the current ordinance as written today. Just sort of a reminder that no ordinance will be adopted this evening. We're simply here to receive input and further direction to craft an ordinance. And as a part of your staff report, you were given sort of that framework of what the ordinance would look like. So the main reason we're here, the main question we're here is where to allow short-term rentals and vacation rentals. That's it. It's the only question. Currently, the vacation rental ordinance allows for vacation rentals within the village mixed-use area, or the area formerly known as the TRC, as well as a few parcels that are zoned R3. So the question is, do you want to continue that practice? If so, we most certainly can continue what is currently in place. However, we are recommending removal of the existing carve-out for the R3s. However, we are recommending that if that happens, that the existing R3 existing properties that are zoned R3 that currently are allowed for vacation rentals, that they be allowed to apply for what is considered a non-conforming vacation rental. And then the question becomes, would these vacation rentals be able to be transferred upon sale, or would they extinguish at sale? The other item that we are sort of seeking guidance with, if we just stick with the village, is placing a cap on new permits. As you know, this council has approved, consistent with our housing element, sort of new regulations that allow for additional housing units in the village mixed-use area, to create more of a mixed-use balance of retail, office, and residential uses, to promote infill development. So with that, some new units are coming online. So the question is begged is, we've gone through all this legwork to include all these new regulations that allow for housing units in the village mixed use. So should we put a cap to ensure that these houses remain in permanent housing, whether they're for condos for sale or for rent? Conversely, the city council could direct staff to allow the short-term rentals or vacation rentals outside of the village. We are recommending, if that's the option that's chosen, we are recommending that a cap be established for the total number of permits issued, not just outside of the village, but also inside the village. Require minimum distances between permitted vacation rental units. So as alluded to in the staff report, that could be anywhere between 500 to 1,000 feet. Your typical block length is about 400 to 500 feet on a typical residential subdivision. But of course, we have a little bit larger areas of land, so we can always extend that, and that would be from property line to property line. Enable quiet times and enforce a number of visitors to be enforced. So it would essentially be written in that quiet times are typically between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. Also enforce sort of a regulation in terms of the number of visitors that could visit the property during the rental. establish a hotline that's answered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This hotline would not be serviced by the city staff, however, it would be contracted out as a part of the permit managing system. Other municipalities have had great success in implementing a hotline so that calls can be directed to them, calls are recorded, and then they're passed on to city staff, and code compliance is done through that avenue. Require neighborhood notification. And so in this instance, we can choose a distance to which we want to notify our neighbors that a vacation rental permit has been issued. Adjust fees so that permit holders pay for these services. So again, this goes back to your fees that you recently adopted is essentially you're paying, the people that are utilizing services are the ones that are paying for it, not other taxpayers who aren't utilizing those services. And finally, there is one avenue that if you don't want to consider if you don't want to consider any vacation rentals outside the village, there is one avenue that may be available and is potentially allowed for what's called a homestay. So what that is essentially, I don't want to call it a bed and breakfast because they may not serve any food, but what it is, it requires that the property owner is on site for the duration of the stay. Other jurisdictions have these so-called owner-occupied units or homestay units. What it does is allow for a property owner to rent out at a short-term, less than 30 days, various rooms in their home for Airbnb, but it's what's called a hosted vacation rental, so they do have to remain on site. Typically, these permits are a little bit cheaper, and they typically are much easier to handle because, again, the host is actually on site, and it's limited to the number of rooms they can rent out. So again, that will conclude my presentation, just asking the two key questions. If you want to keep short-term rentals in the village, and then with the minor modifications as described in our staff report, or open it up to allow for managed vacation rentals outside of the VMU. With that, I'll conclude my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions of staff?
Go. No? Okay, I've got a few.
We recognize Mr. Afonte. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. It's easy for me to say, first off, that I'm not in favor of residential housing, vacation rentals. I'm a little confused by your statement in here. It says 898 units were considered renter occupied. Does that include the 630-odd hotel rooms?
No, that statistic is actually from the U.S. Census Bureau. It's part of the 2020 census. It's permanent units that are renter.
Those are long-term rentals? We have that many out of the 2,300?
That is what was given to us by the U.S. Census Bureau, yes.
Wow. Okay, so let's say we don't want these and we pass this code. I mean, we're going to ask you to write it up for us. It says we don't allow vacation rentals in residential areas. What happens to the existing vacation rental units?
The existing vacation rental units that basically have no path forward to permitting would immediately go into code enforcement. And so essentially we would utilize the tools that we have today to begin winding down their operations.
How much time?
So typically we give first a letter, a second. It would be the similar what we do with most code cases. We give 3 letters, opportunities, and time.
30.
In this instance, it would actually be much quicker, simply because you can remove a listing fairly quickly.
Yeah.
At 14 days is usually sufficient, and then we begin to follow up, and then we begin our finding process per what our administrative citations allow us to do.
Are any of the existing vacation rentals permitted so that they have a claim to say you can't shut them down?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Do you have a question?
Is there a cap on our existing vacation or short-term rentals in the VMU?
No.
Then we have how many?
So we have approximately 24 that are permitted and another
Just in VMU.
just in VMU, and then another 11 that are not permitted that would need to come into compliance,
So we have 35?
give or take, yes.
That's outside the.
No, they're in.
Inside,
They're
yeah.
in. Yeah. And again, this is a part of the process as well, because if we stick to what we got, it becomes an easier compliance essentially to say, hey, look, we know you're operating without a permit. Here's your process forward.
Understood. I guess I didn't follow if that was controversial at all in terms of creating competition with the hotel rooms. Of the 35, how many rooms?
I don't know. We'd have to look into what
Is it
they come
average?
back in stats.
Two per, or just curious?
And that's the problem that we don't know, because the way we've permitted these things is just an application, and in that application, it didn't really go into the fine detail of how many rooms are rented, et cetera. And so we don't necessarily collect that. Conversely, if you are a short-term rental holder, say you have a 4-bedroom house, 3-bedroom house, and I'm going to use myself as an example, as I previously operated a short-term rental, I technically only rented 1 bedroom out of my 3. So it was just the 1 room that was rented.
So I asked you several questions, though, coming into this, Raphael, in email, but you said that, so now I have 2 questions, because you said, I asked you the question when we approved or short-term rentals in the VMU, did it affect our occupancy rates in the Solvang Hotel? And I asked you, you said it flatlined.
Well, I said it flatlined for the last year. That's data you would have to go back years to get. I just had the data of what was year over year at this point from this point to this point.
What flatlined means is we're at a constant occupancy rate. It's not growing. Is it growing at all? Are we having a seasonal or a off year, or do we think there's a contributing factor?
I'll put on my economics hat on and basically state that it's a flat line comparative to last year. There are other major cities in the United States that have experienced a substantial amount of drop off in TOT and visitors due to many factors, particularly also factoring in the way our federal government has been acting and enacted sort of enforcing their rules is probably the best way of putting it. So there is a notable drop off so far in some tourist destinations. Is that affecting us? I don't know. In the answer I did provide it really comes back to the economics of things. During good economic times, you're more off to spend, and so therefore you're up to more take vacations. During bad economic times, you're gonna pull back and may not tend to do an overseas or potentially other state vacation and want to do something more locally. So it just ebbs and flows.
Okay, thank you.
Something else? Go ahead.
One last question. What about ADUs? Are they considered vacation rentals and they would no longer be available if we killed it from the residential area?
ADUs were banned as short-term rentals as a part of your recent zoning ordinance update.
I thought I remembered something like that. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Smith?
Maybe I don't know if this is an appropriate question, but if we did expand outside the VMU, the rules all of the rules would apply outside and inside the VMU, right? I mean,
rules meaning the requirement to
right, the requirements and the permits and the distance and everything, the quiet times, and I mean all of that would be
100%.
Same.
I mean, if we move whatever we move forward, good practice should say we need to adopt a quiet time. Good practice says we need to adopt an enforceable parking mechanism that ties parking to the number of bedrooms. Good practice says that we do need to establish neighborhood notification and an emergency contact. Those good practices should carry forward no matter what processes you choose. The question just becomes, if we allow this to happen in our neighborhoods, how much more do we need to protect our neighborhoods to be just that, our permanent neighborhoods? So that includes not only a cap, but distances between vacation rentals, because essentially what you don't want to have happen is de facto hotel rooms turning into an entire neighborhood. And unfortunately, that has happened without those caps that are in place.
Well, I'll just say that I'm a little bit conflicted by it with regards to we need long-term housing for our employees and families and what have you. And then, but I also don't want to impede on property rights with regards to any economic gain they're able to get. So, but I also think that the devil's in the details, if you will, with this, in that I think if we had it outside of the VMU, it'd be very difficult to oversight and enforce. Would be very difficult and expensive on our part. And with that being said, I'd lean more toward just having the short-term rentals in the VMU exclusively. But unless there's other discussion, I'm going to invite public comment. Mr. Beebe, you're on my list of speakers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dennis Beebe, Solvang. I admit ignorance. I didn't find and read the current ordinance, so I'm only going from Raphael's memo and his framework for amendment. However, my reaction was, well, I hope you've defined what short-term and vacation rentals mean. I guess it's in the existing ordinance, huh? Because I didn't know what it meant. The other thing is I'm not sure when we say VMU, if I go to the zoning map, I can see VMU is pink, and there it is. So that's clearly defined where you might permit these short-term rentals. But then, adjacent to the pink, there's this R3 yellow area, which I guess currently allows short-term. I'm just not sure what boundaries you're discussing with the new or revised ordinance. I just don't, because the village doesn't define an explicit boundary. Anybody could define what a village is and point to a photo, and it might be a different border. So I think that ought to be explicitly defined. If it can be defined by a zone like VMU, enough said. And also, I'm in favor of limiting the number of short-term rentals, however it's defined to like the VMU, and not go outside. But if you go outside, if you consider it, I didn't know what zones you would consider outside the VMU. There's all sorts of zones. I guess we're talking about residential zones, but those have different colors and different densities too. So I just didn't see what zones might be considered for short-term rentals outside the VMU. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Perhaps we can get some enlightenment on that after another. Mr. Jackson, you'd like to speak?
Since I didn't give you a slip, my apologies. C.J. Jackson. I live in non-municipal Solvang, but I work in Solvang. Data point. Rancho Alisal, you can't do a vacation rental because there are PCNRs that say the minimum rental, if you had a unit, is a minimum of 6 months. Number two, they're on a leasehold and the landlord says no. But where I live, in the county, where the ordinance was freer, at one point we had a neighborhood, that's a block and a half, with 4. And one of them was a party house. And so I'm not a fan. I think keeping it where the virtues and the benefits accrue to you as a city through your hospitality and the various services that enhance the value to your city, pursue it. but merely to assert that someone has a right with a house to therefore make an income on it. I'm not sure that's preserved if you follow the rest of the balance of what is in your housing code, et cetera. Because when they call them single-family residences, and when you go through the zoning, and when you go through all of the detail that I happen to know Raphael pays a great deal of attention to, I'm not so sure that you're preserving an inherent right that actually assists the community when you're dealing with your RENA expectations. And if you're a teacher, a nurse, a radiology tech, or any number of things, and the minimum rent for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, I just did a survey on it, is somewhere between $2,300 and $2,800 a month, you've got real challenges there. So I have one that is still next door, one of the most strictly managed ones, and I've got no problem with that neighbor. Thankfully, the party house, well, they sold and enhanced the market for another family. So, just saying, I ain't a fan.
Thank you. We have Mr. Peterson. Would you like to make a comment?
Aaron Peterson, Solvang. I know I've been here talking against it for a while, but I'm going to just recap all the reasons that CJ said I support. Yeah, I mean, we should never, you want to talk about it, whatever, but never seriously consider taking commercial and putting it in residential zones. I don't care if it's, we have home occupancies and you can only have 500 square feet and 25% of your house can be an office. And you can't operate it at night, and you've got to have all these restrictions. And then we would take it and go 24 hours a day. We're going to allow a vacation rental in any residential zone. It should not happen in Solvang. We have enough local folks here in town that dislike tourism and dislike our parking and our traffic, and to have a nice little neighborhood and put in transient people that can come and go. On a weekend or a week basis or even a 28-day basis is something that we should not consider to just get some TOT. Because that's the only advantage, is to get some TOT. And I don't think staff's supporting it because they're illegal. And therefore, oh, you've been doing something illegal, we're going to allow you to continue. No, there's got to be a way that we stop it. Just like if someone's going 50 miles an hour through town every day, we're just going to let him keep doing it. He broke the law, or she did. We should not do it. We need to enforce it. My feeling, though, is hotels basically are vacation rentals. You can go rent a hotel room for 4 weeks. 3 weeks, it is a vacation rental. So we get it confused when you say we're only going to allow them with the new ordinance in the tourist-related zone, the village commercial zone. We do allow it. If you have kitchens, as some of them do, they're going to rent them longer. If they don't have kitchens, they rent them longer. So we do allow it. I'm in favor of allowing it because it's a hotel thing. It's not apartments. It's not residential. Should not happen at all for any number of reasons. I could go on for hours on it as I have before. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have some people on Zoom. I can't read the name this far away without, I'm sorry? Brandon, you're on. Thank you.
Yes, hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, Brandon Sparks Gillis, Solvang. I submitted
I'm sorry, your
extensive comments back in March,
connection's
Jackson,
not that.
and Aaron's recent comments.
Yeah, it's
Can you hear me okay now?
excuse me, I think we're having some difficulty. It's on your, I think, maybe some bandwidth problems here. Can you maybe turn off your camera and just, we'll just do audio.
Yeah, has that improved the audio?
That has
Is that
improved,
better?
thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry about the technical difficulties. Couple quick things. First, I'll applaud the recent comments from CJ and from Aaron. I'm in very strong agreement with those. Again, I submitted some extensive comments back in March, so I won't rehash all of them, but I want to say that I'm 100% in favor of limiting the short-term rentals strictly to the VMU. In fact, I think that they really do need to be phased out of the R3. I think the logic that the last couple commenters mentioned was good on that, so I won't go into great detail. I do just want to extend a couple of analogies and mention a couple things. The city has gone through an enormous level of effort in order to try to meet the arena mandates from the state. And I would look at the way that we've actually rezoned public land theoretically to be developed. That's a major thing to do, to take something that could have been a park, for instance, and to make that available for more residential units. I think that just strongly shows how badly we're in need of residential units as opposed to more vacation rentals. So again, I just think that I would encourage you to enforce what's already there in the law. And as we move forward, to really prioritize keeping residential properties for residents. And I think that would in turn, increase the benefits to the hotels that have done such a great job in terms of complying with the law. So I think that's another thing just to mention, that these illegal units are essentially shiftily competing against the hotels, and I just think it's not a level playing field. So again, just encourage you to go forward with this, to get more stringent, to reduce the overall numbers, to limit them to the VMU, and to really enforce with teeth. Last comment I'll make, because if you look at Santa Barbara, they finally started actually enforcing their short-term rentals about 2 years ago. They've collected $2.6 million in fees since then. So, this is a widespread problem, and I would just encourage Solvang to continue on the path that staff has recommended and to really get these under control and bring the residences back for residents of the town. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brendan. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the dais. And any further comments from?
I have a couple comments. If I may, we have this phenomenon where software platforms have made like every single bit of space marketable and rentable. Airbnb kind of dropped that courtesy in our lap, right? Cities are reacting because we've been caught by surprise by this phenomenon and not collected revenue, and then created all kinds of other issues that we weren't in front of with ordinances and rental agreements and methodologies for governance and control. So now every city's doing this in arrears, right? So what I did on researching this was I went and looked at Palm Springs, because Palm Springs was very noisy about their reaction and extreme examples of how that affected their neighborhoods, their property values, and residential experiences, and of course, consequentially, housing. We have that same phenomenon here, and so I asked Raphael for some data, which is how many outside of just Solvang, because we still have competition in our market, which is a tourist market. And the competition is for vacation rentals outside of our city. And there are, by fast math, 85 of them in Los Olivos, Buellton, and San Ynez. 85, and 53 of those are in San Ynez alone. So there is a buyer for this product. And then the question becomes, do we serve that buyer as well as a tourist community in some fashion with the right kind of governance and controls, caps, rental agreements, tax revenue and reporting methodologies, so that Solvang remains competitive in the face of these phenomenons? So from my perspective, making things like R3 zoned properties ineligible for short-term rental makes sense to me. These are a class of units that should be, or most likely are rented or affordable housing. Do we limit, really contain? Because even for me, 35 of these units in the VMU seems high, right? That seems like a excessive number, and so we're 2.5 square miles as a total city. I don't even know what the size is of the VMU, to your point, right, to the public's point. The border's unclear, but 35 in that tiny boundary seems like it's excessive. So I think if we did the work to find a way to be competitive, controlled, governed, and inviting is probably the best approach. And we can be smarter based on what we've learned from other cities.
Thank you. Any comments? I think for direction is what you're looking for from our board would be for the short-term rental ordinances or amendments. I think what we've heard is that maintain or keep your focus exclusively on our VMU area. Define that those boundaries to a greater degree. And maybe it includes properties that share that boundary or contiguous to the lines. I'm not sure. But I think if we can keep it within the VMU village, I don't think that would include the VMU and the Spanish part of it, or that is district. What we call that? The mission.
It would.
The mission and the Danish part and the mission part.
It would.
It's all part of the VMU.
That is correct. So what I would suggest, again, and there was a question that was brought up of, what is the village? But, village essentially is the old TRC. And I understand that there is a great concern from Brandon and Ms. Verona, as well as Mr. Arconti. As you guys know, you all sat here for our arena discussions, is that new housing units is what it's all about. So there are things that we could do, particularly as we have identified, that we've allowed new housing units to occur in the village, which is a positive thing. But we don't want developers to take instantaneous advantage of that and converting them all into de facto hotels. So we can slap, caps, essentially, regulations stating that, hey, if you're a building in the village mixed use and you didn't convert from commercial to residential space, or you have a building that's final between X date, you're eligible. But any new residential units, you aren't eligible. Or allowing potentially only one unit per building to flip into a short-term rental, or allow a maximum of two. There's percentages you can do. So most certainly we could cap that, and I strongly recommend you do, because again, our intention, our hard work that we've done, controversial, and what is, with the hard work that is put forward, was reducing those barriers to entry and allowing for infill development. I hate for us to do all this work and then see these residential units just flip right over to short-term rentals, which again, positive that we get the TOT, but negative in that it doesn't support our Valley's residents to live here.
Yeah, good.
So a couple things on their existing, Raphael. It sounds like we still need some place readily to see the VMU boundary, so people can get their head around that very quickly. We need a definition of short-term rental, so everybody's also very clear it's less than 30 days and it's increments and, some sub-increment less than 30 days. So it's not a month-to-month rental, right? So it's very different from any form of true residential rental.
Right. So our definition right now, it's in two places. It's mainly in our TOT, less than 30 days. It would be very specific again, because there are some laws that are out there. Some people think it's 28. I've heard 25. I've heard people say 15. No, it's 30 days. It's state law. No more, no less. So anything under 30 days is a short-term rental, period.
So you just made some good suggestions about how we limit and govern potential future growth of even just what's in VMU, which would address net new units or net new build-outs, and how we contain those or limit their ability. I'd like to see some more suggestions on language around that. But do you suggest that we cap where we are today for let's say the 11 that have what did you say, they weren't permitted?
Yeah, and essentially they could come in and get a permit. So essentially, what I've done in good practice in the past is we obviously look what we have, look what's unpermitted, and then do a future growth and say, okay, this is our cap. And then again, hindsight is 2020 when you do these ordinances. One of the things I had a lessons learned in another jurisdiction where I revamped this ordinance. Well, we as myself as former city staff, but new builds did flip into short-term rentals, and that was unintended, and that wasn't meant to be. So again, knowing that we are a small community, that we're fighting to get just new residential units here, it would be important to us to add those limitations.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that as well, because keep in mind that you buy the house, rarely is it for an investment. It's if you're going to rent it, you can rent it, but at long term, as a house or a residence. If they want a different class of property to have that overnight income, invest in a hotel rather than a single family unit. There's options. So, but I think going where you're headed is in the right direction, either with a cap, a pathway to those that are under construction or have been permitted, with a sunset on them of some kind, might be the appropriate way.
Then we need to answer the question outside the VMU. So I'm more open to something that meets a different class of buyer, where they're a family trying to come on vacation and it's a beautiful geography and there are special houses that you get to experience a location in a different way. I think that's a class of customer that we should find a way, the right way, a limited way to offer that out. It makes us competitive, because in the absence of that, they will absolutely go to San Ynez.
And this is about choice. And I have a family of 5, 3 teens right now, and 1 20-year-old. Sorry, I win there. But it is difficult, and it always has been difficult for us to find lodging that works. And God bless the Disney Corporation, because they had 2 bunk beds and a double bed and 2 doubles, and it really worked for us. But it was very rare, and so there is that choice, and so that's part of again, understanding the comments that folks like Mr. Peterson have made and online is, we don't want these inner neighborhoods, and it's tough, but it can be managed. And I think that's the fundamental difference between this conversation 10 years ago, which city staff in the same position said, well, we don't know how to manage this, we don't want to do it. Here, I'm letting you know that we can utilize code enforcement. We have the tools that are available. We do have software platforms that basically scour the internet and will find you very quickly and allow us to bring a hammer down if you're not permitted. Or conversely, we have rules that are 3 strikes and you're out, and we follow those up very diligently so that we do control the aspect of party houses, because we don't want that. That's not our community at all.
Yeah.
Ooh, the National League of Cities had a really good set of recommendations on how to set these policies. It was very, very evolved. So it's clear every city's making progress to address this issue, but it's kind of putting a little bit of the toothpaste back in the tube.
Well, yeah, and I don't understand the arguments you're making with regards to having that subset or that available property, but at the same time, our footprint's 2 square miles. Chances are they'll be located next to CJ anyway, or outside the city limits. And I'm just really concerned if we don't have jurisdiction, and but
we can set an example for the rest of the valley, right? Because
not really. I mean, we're the flea on the dog here, but Well, the point being is that I'm not sure that the juice is worth the squeeze if we're trying to incorporate the entire city. I think that if we were just doing the VMU, we'd have control of it, we'd be able to regulate it and police it. Whereas if we go outside that, and we will have more problems with neighbors, with parking, all the reasons that were brought up not to do it in residential areas, or in the R1s and such. So those estates that you're talking about are just that, and they're available, but they're right outside our city limits as well. So I don't think we're going to lose visitors. I think they'll come to Solvang. They'll stay in Ballard and come into town anyway. So that's my thought.
Okay, so at this point in time, I think we're all in agreement that we want staff to come back with a draft of a code that limits short-term rentals to the VMU.
Yeah, well,
agree?
I'm in agreement with that, but I am also open to similar conditions and caps and constraints outside of VMU.
May I suggest a compromise? So that the compromise being that we again allow these non-owner occupied in the VMU only, but allow for the ability to do a homestay outside of the VMU. And again, the homestay regulations are completely different. The homestay requires the owner to be present between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. And as a part of the homestay, city staff actually, in practice, reviews their online listings and verifies they are actually doing what they're stating and staying at the home.
You're going to limit parking too?
They would have to abide by every single rule of the regulation, but the only thing that they're going to be exempt is they were able to do it outside of the VMU.
I'm not crazy about the outside the VMU.
Which is a much easier thing to enforce. So again, I'm just providing options. I know that's an option that other jurisdictions have out there that allow for this owner occupied / homestay to happen. In practice, there aren't many of them that do happen, but it's there. It's an available tool. If not, we move forward and revamp, and we can always revisit.
So what do you think, Elizabeth?
I think if you were to come up with that scenario as an add-on to what you're doing with and then we can evaluate that in and of itself.
We city staff can most certainly come up with an alternative ordinance, come back to you in a month or so with that alternative language with, I'm assuming, caps, distances, neighborhood notification. How would that look like?
Every single recommendation, Raphael, as strict as we can, right? Yeah.
Right.
And the homestay. And would you share with him this
Oh, yeah.
League of
That's readily,
Cities?
I'm sharing
which
with everybody.
You may already
It's,
have, so.
Yeah, we'd be happy to produce that. We just wanted a path forward that, so essentially we will have Ordinance A, which is outside just the VMU only, as, what I've heard from the majority of the council is VMU only with the cap limiting new construction. We can most certainly craft that and then do an add-on essentially that says, hey, if you want to go out, this is what we recommend you do.
Okay, I'm okay.
I know it's more work.
You
but
find it sufficient, the direction?
Yes, it is sufficient, and it's sufficient, and it's also good to have this discussion. I want to thank Aaron and Brandon and CJ and others who have reached out to the council. We'll continue this reach out because it is a very important issue, because it is, as you mentioned, Mayor, striking that balance between our permanent housing and permanent residents, at the same time acknowledging that we are a tourist community and a tourist destination. So it's a delicate balance that we need to strike.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, we'll move on to the next item. Item E, Madam Clerk, would you read that for us, please?
Approve video surveillance policy.
Thank you. Staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. We're here because in February 2025, council directed staff to look at a pilot project of a surveillance cameras and improved capabilities. And on July 14th, council approved an agreement with XIT Solutions for 7 fixed position Verkada AI-enabled cameras. And to proceed, we need to adopt a policy, or it would be nice to have a policy that guides the use and provides safeguards and oversight of this project. And so tonight we ask that you review the draft policy, provide feedback, and direct staff to return with a final version or adopt the policy as it is. So the policy that was drafted provides some core components, including the authorized uses, including public safety monitoring, evidence collection, emergency response, and cultural preservation. It includes prohibited uses such as discriminatory targeting, private property monitoring, and personal use that is not city-related. It outlines technology and capabilities, and addresses data management and privacy protections, including signage at each camera location, role-based access controls, complaint processes, and audit logs. It suggests implementation structure to include placement of the cameras in strategic locations, and this was informed with the county sheriffs. Monitoring approach. So it will be primarily passive, and active monitoring will only be in defined circumstances. It addresses maintenance, regular software updates by the Verkada, the company, performance checks, and annual audits to the policy. We'll review the annual policy with legal counsel and with community input, and updates will be brought to council if there's substantive. Based on some feedback we've received from Councilmember Elizabeth Arona, we wanted to bring up the issue of the audio recordings. While the cameras have the capability to do audio recording, we recommend including in the policy that the recording is disabled by default and to prohibit it in the policy. We realize it's unclear how we're going to use the monitoring, whether it's active or passive, and the policy change we recommend is outlining that it'll be passive monitoring, meaning we will only look at the video if it's triggered by an alert of sorts, or if somebody says, hey, there was a theft at this location, do you have any footage? And then the city manager or designee will take a look at that footage. The times when it could be actively viewed is in the case of, hey, there's somebody running around with my backpack, and then then it'll be actively used to say, well, where were you? Let's see if we can find anybody matching that description currently, rather than just a retroactive report. Or in the case of a current emergency, hey, there's an evacuation occurring right now. Let's make sure all these streets are evacuated. It's hard to foresee what will happen, but it's the concepts that we'd like to establish. Additionally, we recommend also removing the 30-day retention reference and just keeping the 365-day reference, as that's what the government code requires. And the 30-day reference only applies to camera onboard storage. And additionally, we recommend limiting the clarity on who can access footage and how, so that it's role-based permission, so not individual names, but the city manager and which particular staff, and include in the policy that there's an audit log for all activities. So the vendor confirmed that this is correct, and include a chain of custody protocols for evidence. Additionally, we'd recommend removing the private information definition as it's not applicable. We don't mention it again. Private identifying information, and removing or clarifying a surveillance impact report. The next steps would include council direction tonight, confirming compliance, confirming legal compliance, and presenting a revised policy at a future meeting for final approval. And we have a representative from Vercada available, and Vercada is the camera provider, while XIT Solutions provides the installation, as well as Randy and myself to address policy implementation questions. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Questions? I had a quick question. I thought that in the prohibited use, should we also add any marketing purposes?
That's a great idea.
So you can't use it for marketing or, and that goes both ways. That's for, so no licensing or trademarks available on any of this material. That was the only thing I was thinking of as far as prohibited uses.
Yeah, I think that's a doable and great idea.
You've listed in here in your report that this video equipment is going to cost about $150,000. Is there a monthly or annual additional cost?
That includes the software license.
So there's no additional costs for 3 years?
There's no additional cost.
Olivia, I know we initially thought the retention policy was 30 days, but we have to comply with 365 days. So did the storage costs change?
No, it was
impose this policy.
It was always 365 days. We just thought it would have to be available on the device for 30 days.
Okay.
And it could be removed. But it was only for the onboarding.
So the retention
while
fees, it's for a full year, and then we can purge.
That's correct.
Okay, we're still at the 150 mark. Okay.
Correct. And that was also confirmed with the vendor.
I'm not sure for audio, there's a reason that we wouldn't want that, or what would be the advantage or disadvantage to having
Audio, I believe California does not allow for audio recording. And so while it is, maybe Chelsea can better speak to it.
With a big caveat that I did not look into this, but I believe California is a two-consent state. So you have, two-party consent. So you have to get their permission to record their audio. So that's why we wouldn't want to have that feature enabled, because we can't get everybody's consent walking down the street to record their audio. Yeah,
so that understand that aspect. I'm just thinking that, okay, if there was a gunshot, what was the time, or that type of thing? How can we better protect or help law enforcement with audio if that were an option? So it wasn't pretty much who initiated an argument. That I understand that.
Right, but we can't selectively record only inanimate sounds. So I think we have to limit the audio.
Okay.
To not, you're going to capture too much and get in trouble if we do that.
No, they can speak in Danish. Nobody know what they were saying. Okay.
Except for the Danes.
If there's no other questions, I'll ask for public comment at this time. Mr. Beebe?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dennis Beebe, Solvang. I want to piggyback on your comment regarding prohibited uses. There is a kind of a standard prohibited use that says that this data cannot be used to identify gender or race or ethnic origin, ta-da, ta-da. However, if one of the purposes of these videos is to, solve crimes, and the video represents evidence of the people that might have been involved in this crime and their description, I don't quite understand how we can prohibit it when we're collecting the data, and it would be very useful for the crime solvers. So that's my comment on prohibited use.
Thank you. Any other public comment? If none, I will close it to public. Is there anybody on Zoom?
No.
Okay, we're now closing public comment and bring it back to the dais. Mr. Murphy?
I just want to point out that it says targeting based on race, ethnicity, et cetera, or processing data to identify. So we can't use the video specifically to target somebody based on, but again, as was pointed out, if we're looking for an individual who happens to be a Caucasian male, that's what the AI does for us. We're not, based on a criminal complaint. And we're also not processing. We're not going to be using it to say, well, we had, 27% Caucasian, whatever percentage, Hispanic or whatever. That's what the intent of identifying or prohibiting that kind of identification behavior.
I think one of the things we need to do is kind of clarify procedurally when we have footage of an event, it's classified as some type of an event, and then what we do with it, because typically we would turn it over to law enforcement and they would do the pursuit of some sort if that was required. I think we want to be clear on those procedures too, but to emphasize the kind of surveillance we're doing is really prohibitive because we're in passive mode. So there will be notices, right, that publicly display the areas is being viewed and surveilled and a visible camera, and so there's a notice which typically does 90% of the job, right?
It should. Yeah. Well, like the best example was when we had the vandalism for all the tree lights.
Yeah.
They did dozens of damage, dozens of trees, but was only convicted on one because that's the only video that we had. So that's unfortunate wave of justice, but that's what it was. So
I want to thank the staff for coming back so fast with the details that we needed, making the adjustments, getting the help from the vendors. I think we're getting really close. Yeah. Appreciate this expedite.
Okay, what action item is needed for this?
We need a motion.
Do you need more direction or do you need motion?
Motion to approve is what it says on the document on page.
Originally, it was a motion to approve. Given that there have been some changes that have been identified, it could be a direct staff to finalize video surveillance policy with tonight's feedback and return for council approval.
So moved.
Or we could just approve it with those changes. You've already got the changes down. One was just marketing, right?
But we haven't seen the language. We need to see
Okay.
the language.
Do you want to
Bring
come
it
back as a consent item?
Yeah,
Perfect.
I'll second it.
Just bring it back as a consent item.
Before we take the vote and inject a little bit of humor, do you want to add
If it's from you, I'm sure it'll be little.
Prohibited uses, no Coldplay moments?
Oh, okay.
Why is it that everyone knows about
You need to put up
the
with this stuff.
entire
Do you have a
world?
highlighter for this stuff? Okay, then is that adequate? Just bring it back for consent item with these changes? Very good.
That'll work. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any closing comments?
Do we need to vote? Oh.
It's just direction. If there's no closing comments?
Nope.
All right, I want to say thank you very much. We will re-adjourn in September, what's the last? September 8th will be our next meeting. And I want to thank everyone and enjoy a nice Labor Day. We are adjourned at 9:19.